Well, we're going to delve into the world of statistics and probability. And we start off here with talking about sampling. And when we talk about sampling, we really first have to begin by talking about populations. So a population are all members of a group of interest. So for instance, if we were to consider the population of a school, that would be the entire student body. Or if we're looking at maybe the population of Cumberland County, North Carolina, that would be all the population of Cumberland County. And if we were to try to find some information, let's say from Cumberland County, and there's roughly 300,000 people that live here, well, that would be a pretty monumental task. And so what statisticians do is then they develop samples. And a sample is a subset that's used to represent a population. So again, let's see, if we were to do a phone survey. Now let's think about the student body. If we were to do rather than get information or get data from the entire student body, we might develop some type of sample. Now there's 5 types of samples that we're going to consider here. One of those is a simple random sample, which means that each member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. So let me see if I can think of an example right quick. Each member, you might do a telephone survey as an example. Might be one where you each person you generate telephone numbers and then you call randomly those telephone numbers. That might be an example of a random sample. Next up after that would be a systematic sample, and this is where members are selected according to a specific interview. So for instance, let's go back to the student body. Let's say that we were to sample systematically by using we've got the names of the students in alphabetical order, and we're picking every 3rd or 4th student. That would be an example of a specific interval. That's a systematic sample. Then there's a self-selected sample, and here members volunteer to be included in the sample. You know, sometimes when you go out to a restaurant and they give you your receipt, they may tell you that you could go online and do an online survey. Well, that'd be an example of a self-selected. In other words, I may have the information is given to me, but I've got to decide that I want to be included in that sampling. And if I go online, I'm included, and if not, well, I chose not to do it. I chose not to self-select. A fourth type of sample might be by convenience. So let's see that you were going to do a sample of a population here in Cumberland County, and you just decided to go to a mall because there's going to be a lot of people in and out of there, and you just do it because the members are readily available and they're easy to reach. You can just go to the mall, you conduct your survey. Your survey is your sampling technique and or sampling study, and they're just easy to come by. And then lastly is something called stratified. So a stratified sample is where the members are divided into similar non-overlapping groups. So let's say, for instance, we were going to do a sampling of the student body, and we might select maybe at an interval or maybe even randomly, but an equal number from the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior classes. That would give us an example of a stratified sample. So let's look at a couple of instances where we're going to identify what the sample group is, identify the population, and also the type of sample and a reasoning for why we do that. So let's see, we're going to classify a random sample. I got a bunch of cooks up here. So it says identify each sample, suggest a population from which it was selected, and then classify the sample as simple, systematic, self-selected, convenience, or stratified. Then explain your reasoning. So here we've got, well, there's something called a Jamaican Jerk Festival. And for those of you who don't know, the Jerk Festival is not a bunch of crazy people. Well, they may be crazy. I don't know. They're in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Anyway, it's a type of cooking. So cooks may enter a competition where each entrant must prepare any of 3 dishes from the following category: jerked pork, jerked chicken, or jerked seafood. Now, after the competition, contestants were asked to complete an online survey about whether to add future categories. So let's see, what is our sample? Well, our sample would be any of the contestants that decided to go ahead and complete the online survey. That would be our sample, and our population would be all the contestants. So all the contestants were given that information. So that would be our population of those entering the cooking contest. And then as far as the type of sample, simple, systematic, self-selected, convenience, or stratified, well, this would be self-selected. They would voluntarily go online, complete the survey, and so we would have a self-selected sample from the population of all the contestants from this annual Jamaican Jerk Festival cooking competition. And if they went online and completed the survey, they were part of the sample, and if they didn't, they were not. Let's look at one more. A bunch of hamburgers. Yes, I'm going to eat hamburgers today. Identify each sample, suggest a population from which it was selected, then classify the sample as simple, systematic, self-selected, convenience, or stratified, and then explain the reasoning. All right, so let's see. At a popular diner, the manager checks the quality of burgers every 20 minutes, starting at a randomly selected interval. Well, our sample would be the burgers that are going to be selected. In this case, it's going to be selected every 20 minutes. And our population would be all the burgers at that restaurant on that particular day or week or whatever, however long, maybe every day that the manager does that. And then is this a simple, a systematic, a self-selected, a convenience, or stratified? Well, this would be a systematic because the burgers are going to be selected at a specified time interval, in this case 20 minutes. So let's see, a simple sample, every member has an equal chance to participate. A systematic sample, the members are selected according to some kind of specified interval from a random starting point. And self-selected, the members volunteer to be part of the sample. And a convenient sample is just people that are easy to reach or readily available. And then in a stratified sample, we might group the population into various groups and then select a random sample from each of those groups. Classifying random sampling. And random sampling is a key component of statistical analysis.